that's just fooling once. But fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Arf, hounds of heaven. Jesus loves you and is there for you. Welcome into the David L. Gray Show, off code and unscripted, where I talk about things without a filter and without a teleprompter. And we're live. I got one thing for you today. We're going to get into the 8 proofs of why people claim that Pope Francis is a Freemason. This won't take long. Only half an hour to spend with you this morning. Got to get to the gig that pays me money, but I don't think this is going to take long at all. Because I don't think there's really any depth to these things at all. So we're getting to those. But first of all, I like to say running a little bit late this morning. Obviously, I was on the Catholic Drive Time show this morning with Joe McClain, Adriana Fonseca, and Rudolph Carlos. I was talking about the purported miracle, Eucharistic miracle down in Guadalajara, Mexico. And you guys, I know I never did a video on that subject. I think I linked it once on the Gray Reports. Just because my spidey senses went off from the very beginning. There's another miracle in Guadalajara, purported Eucharistic miracle in Guadalajara, Mexico, back in 2013. Same bishop. And that one turned out to be no good. And this one turns out to follow that same pattern. No one has even told the bishop about it. The priest hasn't, no parishioners. So hop over to the Catholic Drive Time show to check out my thoughts on that. I'll try to link it to the Gray Report later, maybe cut out a clip of it, post it on my channel. Also, the big news on a Gray Report that I posted this morning, that's at davidlgray.info. Hop over there for all your news that's going on in the world from a Catholic perspective. But I posted about what happened in Kansas yesterday, the state of Kansas. They had an initiative on the ballot to put child murder rights, put it back in the hands of the legislator rather than the Supreme Court, which ruled that according to the Kansas Constitution, you can legally murder your children. And that referendum on the ballot failed by a massive margin. And I think that should just put every Catholic on high alert about what's going on in the country right now. We sure the law has changed. Thank God that it has. It was an answer to our prayers over the last 50 years. Good. But wake up call. Wake up call if you didn't know already. Although the law has changed, not one heart has changed on the subject. Not one heart. And we live in a very fallen society, very fallen, where people think the worst sins are normal behavior, from pedophilia to so-called same-sex marriage to same-sex relations to child murder. People think this is normal behavior in this society. We live in a fallen world. We do. And it's a wake-up call, man. If you guys really think changing the law made things better, it's probably going to make things worse in a sense, because I can't imagine maybe every state can put this on a ballot. Maybe all 50 states can put unrestricted abortion rights on the ballot, and they're going to pass. They're going to pass, even in places like Georgia, Alabama. I bet you they'll pass because people are taken by the devil. They just are. We got a lot more work to do to change hearts about the subject, to see the intrinsic value and dignity in every human being from the moment of conception to the moment of death. Every human being has intrinsic value because not because we assigned it, but because God assigned it. And because God assigned it, we cannot take it away from any human being, regardless of how they were born or anything that they've done. It's not on us. Render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and render unto God what belongs to God. Human beings belong to God. Therefore, it is not our right to do anything with them, let alone kill them, especially in the womb where they're most innocent. So we have a lot more work to do. But let's get into this. Yesterday I posted a video, a critique of some things that Dr. Taylor Marshall had posted, a video he had done about what he calls the Masonic infiltration, or what he'll call the Freemasonic infiltration. And Freemasonic, again, is not even a real word. Never use it, especially around a Freemason who's a Catholic that you're trying to work on. They'll laugh at you by saying the word Freemasonic. It's not a word. But one of the things I complimented him in that video was the fact that he said that Pope Francis is not a Freemason. I complimented him on that. That was awesome. And but let's get into the 8 proofs that people. This is really a popular thing. People really think Francis is like some initiated Freemason, like he's a card carrying Freemason. So let's get into the proofs of why they say that is. And Michelle Bear, she puts up one that we're going to get into. She said, "Good morning, David. Is one proof Francis handshake with Pelosi?" Yeah, we're going to get into. That's one of the proofs that they use, that he handshakes like a Freemason. So let's get into this. And oh, and one other note about the whole Dr. Taylor Marshall video I did. Whenever someone critiques, Dr. Taylor Marshall can talk about as much trash as he wants to about Pope Francis or any other prelate. He can talk as much trash as he wants to. But as soon as one person on YouTube or some journalist, some essayist writes one negative comment about Dr. Taylor Marshall, everyone wants to have a hissy fit and be angry and insult people. And there's always this culling, right? When one person says one thing negative about Dr. Taylor Marshall, there's this culling where people lose all these followers and all this stuff. Um, Happy to announce though that usually the culling on my channel, when I say one negative thing about Dr. Taylor Marshall, usually it's double digits, or my Facebook page, usually double digits. It's in the single digits right now. So maybe I've called off all the cult members. I don't know. But people, calm down. Oh my goodness. Just because people is also, it's okay to critique people. People critique me. Calm down. Grow up. Jeez. It's embarrassing. But let's get into this. All right. So this is a letter to the editor over the site is from Rome, and this letter really is succinctly points to all the um, um, 8 reasons why people think Pope Francis is a Freemason. Haya says, David, you know that you are 30. Did, David, you know that you are a 32nd degree Freemason. If anyone knew Pope Francis, you would. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was at some point in time. Um, a member of the ancient and scepter Scottish Rite, and I was a sublime prince of the royal secret, whatever that was, as a 32nd. Um, so, so the letter says, so as you know, there is more than sufficient evidence that demonstrates that Bergoglio is a Freemason. That even his papal name, Francis I, is of Masonic importance and origin, having absolutely nothing to do with the Sephardic father, Francis, um, Saint Francis. We know that he's working with leaders from all around of the main false world religions to unite them into an interfaith confederation of religions under the one guide, which is himself. The sodomite rabbi Bergman from Buenos Aires, Argentina, is a Freemason. Observe the background on his shelf here. I'm not going to click the picture. And he is not only one of Bergoglio's close friends, but was also one that called for Bergoglio to lead the One World Coalition of Religions in a G6 Interfaith Summit event found in above link, which was held this past September. This was written in 2020. Here's another video with Rabbi Bergman sitting next to Cardinal Bergoglio while Bergoglio gives a few words about the Masonic rabbi's book release. Here's the video of the same Mason sodomite rabbi being blessed by priests right behind the altar. It happens right in front of the sacred species. So I think there's actually 9 proofs. He doesn't include that one. Then he goes on to have 8 other proofs. But the first proof that Pope Francis is a Freemason is that he hangs around with Freemasons. His best friend is Rabbi Bergman is a Freemason. Therefore, Pope Francis is a Freemason. So the first proof is guilt by association, right? I think we can just, if we put this in a court of law, right? I'm not a trial judge. I'm not an attorney. I think I took one l- class in business law when I was in college, at university. So I don't know a whole lot about how the courtroom works, right? Other than me being in court. um, but I just don't think that's sufficient evidence in itself. I think we just dismiss that one. Pope Francis is a Freemason because his best friend is Freemason. Another best friend of Pope Francis we know was that atheist that died. Um, does that make Pope Francis atheist? Maybe he acts like one sometimes. Another best friend of Pope Francis was a that Protestant pastor who died as well, who wanted to become Catholic, and Pope Francis, no, don't become Catholic. You're better off where you are. Does that make Pope Francis a Protestant? Maybe he acts like one, right? So guilt by association says who we associate with says something about us, but doesn't necessarily make us that thing. Just because Pope Francis' supposed best friend here is a purported Freemason, card carrying Freemason, it doesn't thereby mean that Pope Francis was initiated into the Masonic order. I find that the proof by which we can say someone is a Freemason has been established. Is two things. One, um, it came by the way of Bergoglio, Cardinal Bergoglio. No, Cardinal is it Bergoglio? Yeah, Bergoglio. Um, no, I'm missing the name. What's the name of the guy who did the Novus Ordo? Starts with a B. Somebody help me in the com box. Bagnini, yeah. That proof is established by Bagnini, Cardinal Bagnini. Um, One, we had proof of his name on a membership roster of the Lodge of Propaganda, the P2 Lodge. We found his name listed on there, um, along with a lot of other people. So that is the highest proof by which we can establish someone is a Freemason. Seen her name on the membership roster of a lodge. That information is very hard to get. The membership roster is always held by the lodge secretary. When that membership roster from P2 Lodge was released, the guy died who did it. So I was a lodge secretary for a long time. Um, the membership roster was when when I think my most important responsibility as a lodge secretary to keep up to date and accurate and private. So it's not something that's an easy standard of proof, but that's it. The second standard of proof I think is also high. Um, the person himself says they were a Freemason at some point in time, or or a very high ranking Freemason. I mean high ranking, I mean Grand Master. Um, Says that they can verify that a person was initiated into the Masonic Lodge, right? So we can, and their reasons for saying so can't be nefarious. It can't be having some axe to grind. It just has to be some sort of volunteered information. And so we do have that proof in the past. One, like I said, Bonini, the membership roster, um, Pope Leo the 13th and Cardinal Rampolia both admitted they were Freemasons at some point in time during their youth. They had been initiated into the Inter-Princess degree, which most boys in France and Italy were at some point in time, given the first degree when they were 16, 17. Um, and then say with the case of Pius the Ninth, Freemason, initiated in his youth, two Grand Masters volunteered that information. You can find. So I think those are the standards of proof. Guilt by association is the one. But let's go to the other eight real quick. Number one, Bergoglio teaches Masonic doctrine. We talked about this yesterday in Dr. Taylor Marshall video, the document on human fraternity, human brotherhood at Abu Dhabi. Um, because a person teaches so-called Masonic doctrine, indifferentism, does that therefore mean that they are a Freemason? No, it just means that they're teaching indifferentism. A lot of people do that in the Catholic Church right now. Many people at the highest levels of the Catholic Church do that. Does not therefore mean that they're initiated into the first degree or the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry. Um, Number two, Bergoglio joined the Rotary Club in Argentina when he was young. As you can as you can see, this was known as of 1999. Yeah. The Rotary Club is not a Masonic order. Neither is the Lions Club, the Optimist Club, um, um, Alcoholics Anonymous. None of these, all these things, yes, started by Freemasons, does not then therefore mean make a person a Freemason just because they belong to an organization that was started by some people who were Freemasons. All right, that's not sufficient proof. It doesn't rise again to the standard that we have in a court of law, nor does it rise to the standard I think is established of a membership roster, personal testimony of themselves or testimony of of at least two grandmasters. Right. Bergoglio signs as a Freemason as of 1917. All right, so let's take a look at this. This says that Bergoglio or Pope Francis. I don't call him by his street name, but let's take a look at this. And the letter says he signs himself as a Freemason and has after his name supposedly here. There's 3 dots, and they're saying that this stands for those 3 dots right there means that he is signing as a Freemason. Let's see if I can make that bigger for you. So these 3 dots, because he signed his name with 3 dots, and they're saying that Freemasons, are taught that if you're a builder, a Freemason, a stonemason back 1700s, 1600s, 1500s below, one way that you marked your work was by, in fact, in Freemasonry, or I say in the Masonic orders, well, sometimes, yeah, I would say the Masonic orders, those things that's outside of Freemasonry, those allied affiliate concordant degrees. There's one degree called the Mark Master. If you're in the United States and you go up to York Rite, and I think the Scottish Rite has as well. I think the 4th degree in both, or in the Royal Arch, is the 1st degree of the Royal Arch, but it's so called the 4th degree because it's after your 3rd degree, whatever. That degree typically we'll say is the Mark Master degree. And that's when you learn in the trade that a master mason marks his work. Right. And I think that the tool that you're giving in that degree, I think, is a hammer and a chisel to mark your work. And the hammer and chisel is supposed to teach you something. So that's what they're saying here, that he is imitating that mark. I don't know. It sort of looks like him doing the Jesuit thing and having 2 dots. So anyway, that's this, you can argue that, but again, it doesn't therefore mean that this person has a weird signature with a couple of dots that they are therefore an initiated Freemason. But it sounds like what the person is doing is that they're building up a case here. They're going to put all these things together and say there's sufficient evidence altogether that he's a Freemason. But let's keep going. Bergoglio handshakes like a Freemason. So let's take a look at this picture. We've seen other pictures where he has when the Nancy Pelosi was brought up, but here's one with um, Pope Benedict the 16th. Let's bring it in here. All right, come on. All right. Let's see if I can do it from over here. Okay, that might work. All right. So it looks like Pope Francis does have the thumb on looks like the first knuckle. Not really. Looks like it's on top of the first knuckle. If it was on the first knuckle, we could say, oh, that's a he's giving him the handshake of an entered apprentice. Sort of. Freemasons, first rule about Freemasonry. Keep the secret secret. Right? I know there's these pictures out there of handshakes of Freemasons, but they tell half of the issue. Right? Yes, there's the handshake, you're on some sort of knuckle or covering all the knuckles. So you're doing something with your thumb on a knuckle, right? Um, but it's always followed by this: is covering up whatever the handshake is. Why? Because Freemasons are taught to conceal the secrets. So you'll never in real life ever see Freemasons give each other a handshake. You'll see them shake a hand, but someone's going to cover the hand up to hide what degree it is. Or Freemasons, they're going to handshake and they're going to come each other real close to close, breast to breast, and handshake down by their belly so that no one can see. It's a secret organization, people. You think people Freemasons are just going to go around showing their handshakes? I mean, come on, just use some common sense sometimes. The first rule about a secret society is don't tell your secrets. So no, Freemasons do not give handshakes out of the open like that. Moreover, um, that handshake is not a so-called Freemason handshake anyway. Is one, it's not on the first knuckle, and it's not covered, which is a rule. Um, Under penalty, you cannot reveal the secrets of a Master Mason or reveal the secrets of Freemasonry. And by giving an open handshake by like that, you violated your obligation as a Master Mason. You can get in trouble. So number 5, Italian Masonry supports Bergoglio, among other Masonic, and there are dozens. We talked about this yesterday with Dr. Taylor Marshall video. Always be suspicious of whatever comes out of the Grand Orient. You have to always ask the question, why? Why? Why would Freemasons put in their magazine that Pope Francis is great? It doesn't have any impact on them. They don't have a pope. So why would they publish that? You always have to ask, who is the consumer? If someone puts out something, ask the question, who's the consumer of this product? Who's the intended consumer? Who's the intended consumer tells you everything about what the product is for. Who is the intended consumer of Grand Orient Lodges saying that Pope Francis is a swell guy? The consumer isn't Freemasons. It doesn't affect them. So who's the consumer? Oh, it's Catholics. Catholics are the consumers of that information. Freemasons say these things about Pope Francis to stir division within the Catholic Church. That's what they do. Mission accomplished. Number 6, Bergoglio's name Francis I appears for the first time in the history of King Francis, who's venerated by Italian Freemasons as protector of the Carbonari, which Pope Leo fought during his time by matching them, demanding their well-known instruction, Alta Vendetta, be published and condemning Mason. Talked about this yesterday. The Alta Vendita, it was not a Masonic document because the Carbonari were not Freemasons. It was not a Masonic order. There were some members of the Carbonari who were Freemasons, many who were not. They were like a Rotary Club, the Lions Club. Some were Freemasons, some were not. The Pope, the dogmatic teaching of the church, well, not dogmatic, the magisterial teaching of the church in 2 papal documents, which I talked about yesterday, Ecclesiam de Jesu Christi and Covera, what's the other part of Covera? Whatever. Say that those documents say that the Carbonari were not Freemasons. So it's the magisterial teaching of the church, history itself, that they were not Freemasons. So we can just dismiss this thing. I don't even know what 6 is. This is interesting. Pope Bergoglio demonstrates the 666 hand sign here.
On the other, the figure
They say at the
of
0.8
Moses
mark
leads us directly to God.
All right, so they're saying at the 0.8 mark, this is a Masonic handshake. I mean, this is a Masonic sign. So when Pope Francis did this at the 0.8 mark, when he's speaking and he's saying this, they're saying this was part of the 666 hand sign. I had no idea that 666 had a hand sign. I can see if Pope Francis did. I guess we could say that, but the guy is talking and he's making a point. I do this all the time. I think I just did it when I was speaking up at the Coalition for Council Priests. I think I was speaking and I went like this. Now, granted, this is not clearly a 6. It's more like a bunny. Right? Maybe I belong to the secret order of bunnies. Right? Maybe I have a lot of kids. I'm really fertile. I don't know. I think that's probably the weakest proof of them all. That's weird. Number 8. Bergoglio, upon his fake papal election, greets from the loggia the Marana Mara gesture, which is well-known hand sign of Freemasons. I don't. I never learned this. I mean, I never heard that word before. But let's take a look here. He may be onto something. Oh, interesting. So this is a Masonic hand sign here that I never learned. Let me take a look. So Pope Francis, the article says that Pope Francis came out on the loggia and he greeted people as a Vulcan. No, it wasn't a Vulcan. It was more like 2 fingers closed, pinky, index finger out, pinky out. So it's like the opposite of the Vulcan sign. Like this would be Vulcan. I come in peace. This would be more whatever. I never heard of that. But he says if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it is a duck. A pig with high heels, a wig, eyelashes, and lipstick is still a pig. Sincerely, I don't know. It's these 9 proofs interesting, but not one of them really met the standard of what I think is a standard. One, a membership roster, like Bonini. The person themselves claim they're Freemason. Leo the 13th, Cardinal Repolia, according to a credible witness. 2 Grand Masters saying that someone is a Freemason. Pius IX. Credible evidence in the history of the world that those people may have been initiated as kids, because Freemasons were initiating everyone's kids in the first degree at that point in time. Bergoglio did live in a country, well, Pope Francis did live in a country, Argentina, where Freemasonry is prevalent, normal. It's not unlikely at all. He's a Jesuit, does very strange things. Doesn't seem very Catholic at all. But does that really mean that therefore he is a Freemason? Could it be just the worst pope in the history of the church? Well, we know that's true. Could he seem to be an enemy of Christ? That's true. Is he persecuting Christ in the same way that Jesus told Peter, "Get thee behind me, Satan," when Peter's trying to stop the sacrifice of the mass? Jesus said that's when Peter was trying to stop the sacrifice of Jesus. Jesus said that is something that's demonic. Get thee behind me, Satan. Is Pope Francis trying to do the same thing Peter did by stopping the sacrifice of mass in the traditional Latin rite? Yeah, that's demonic. That's satanic. All those things can be true without us having to resort to saying that is therefore true. Those things are therefore true because Pope Francis belongs to some sort of nefarious organization. I don't think we have to put an organization with Pope Francis being a bad pope. He gets to be a bad pope rather than bringing in an organization that I think pollutes the matter and causes us to take focus off the act themselves. Pope Francis could be just acting contrary to um, Christ and his church in many ways without him belonging to some sort of organization. Those are my thoughts. I have a couple of minutes left. Let me see what you guys are talking about. Is it possible to be a Mason just by affiliation and fundamentals? Now, to be a Freemason, it means you're initiated. It's a membership. It means that you've taken at least the first degree. You've been obligated. It's like being a Muslim by doing that prayer that Muslims do. You just can't just say you're a Muslim without doing that prayer. Nor can you say you're my wife without getting married to me, right? There's an act involved in itself. Freemasonry isn't an ideology. It's not like you say, oh, someone's a liberal or communist. That doesn't require initiation. It requires stupidity, but it doesn't require initiation. All right. The three fingers up are supposed to represent the 3 6s. Oh, is that what that is? So there's the 6 and then there's the 3. Okay. I think that's good proof that he's a Satanist. I don't know about the whole Freemason thing. All right. I don't see the connection between being a Satanist and I don't know. I don't remember ever seeing that sign in any sort of degree of Freemasonry. I would have to go back and look at some rituals, see that if that's ever a thing. But it sounds like he's a Satanist if he was doing that intentionally. That's what it sounds like to me. It doesn't rise to the standard of what I established. John Boys, I think of Freemason, I'm thinking moral relativism. I believe that's why obedient Catholics think Masons are the cause of much. Yeah, I think people do use Freemasonry as an ideology rather than an organization, right? I think that's pretty prevalent. People say, oh, he's a Freemason. And they use it in a sense, oh, he's a communist, he's a liberal, right? I think people use those words interchangeably without making the proper distinction. Okay. Isn't a Jesuit order basically a Masonic order at this point? Again, Freemasonry is an organization. Their key ideology is indifferentism. So is the Jesuit order a bunch of indifferent homosexuals at this point? Absolutely. I think that's the distinction, though. The Freemasons are not a bunch of homosexuals. They're a bunch of married men. But the Jesuits are just a bunch of homosexuals just spreading monkeypox everywhere in their gay bathhouses we call seminaries. Right. All right. So I think that is my time. I got to get out of here. I have a job to do. I'm sure you guys do too. And I will see you on the next time. I love you. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this was informational. So let's just call Pope Francis a bad pope, the worst in history. But let's not convolute the matter by saying things that we cannot necessarily prove. It's not a good look on us. All right. All righty. Let me find my outro. I found it. Peace. I'd like to ask you to hop over to davidlgray.info. Become a sponsor there if you like. Join my mailing list if you like. And visit the Gray Report while you're there for the latest news from a rigid Catholic lean.